What's up, YouTube? This is BBX Cards. We're here with a news video for you about pendulum summoning and pendulum monsters. So, I'm going to be reading from the organization, if you know what that is. It's like a Yu-Gi-Oh! News outlet. But anyway, I'm just going to talk to you about the summoning and the two new monsters they revealed that are pendulum monsters. The field now has two new zones called the Pendulum Zones. On these pendulum zones, you can place the new group of monsters called pendulum monsters. These pendulum monsters can be used just like regular monsters, but when you place them on the pendulum zones, they become spells. Basically, so how it works is like they have a monster effect and a spell effect, and when they're placed on the pendulum zones, you use the spell effect, and when they're on the field, you use the monster effect.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Alright, and then if a pendulum monster is sent to the graveyard, you put it on the extra deck face up.
What the fuck is this?
There are red and blue arrows on the card. They're called pendulum scales, and pendulum scales have different numbers depending on the card. How that goes into play is that on the left side, let's say you have a pendulum monster with a scale of 1, and then on the right side you have one with 8. That means you can pendulum summon, which you can only do once per turn. You can pendulum summon a monster between those two levels, so 2 through 7, onto your side of the field. Now, remember how it said if cards in your pendulum zone are destroyed, they go to the extra deck face up. Well, you can pendulum summon those pendulum monsters that were sent to the extra deck face up as your once per turn pendulum summon. So, like, say you had a pendulum monster on your extra deck face up, and then you have two pendulum monsters in your pendulum zones. If that monster on your extra deck face up is in between the scales on your pendulum zones, you can summon it to the field. You can also do that from the hand too. Like, it can be any monster in your hand. At least as far as this says, and I'm kind of concerned about that because it's going to mean, like, say you had pendulum monsters in your hand that give you a wide scale, and then you have something that's normally hard to get out. It's going to make it a little easier. Alright, now I'll go into the monsters. So the first one is Astromancy Magician. It's a dark spellcaster, pendulum scale 1, and 1200 attack, 2400 defense, level 5. Alright, so its spell effect is if a pendulum monster you control battles, your opponent cannot activate spell cards until the end of the damage step. If you do not control a Astromancy or an Odd Eyes card in your other pendulum zone, this card's pendulum scale becomes 4.
The fuck is this?
Its monster effect is once per turn, when exactly one pendulum monster you control is returned to the hand by your opponent's card effect, you can special summon one monster with the same level from your hand. So it's basically like if they compulse it, you can just resummon it, which is kind of funny. The other one is Chronomancy Magician. Activate only if you control no monster. This is the spell effect, and it's a dark spellcaster, pendulum scale 8, 1200 attack, 600 defense. I like how they gave these monsters kind of crappy attack and defense stats, just so that they're a little more balanced. Spell effect, activate only if you control no monsters. If a pendulum monster you control battles, your opponent cannot activate trap cards until the end of the damage step. If you do not control a Mancy card or Odd Eyes card in your other pendulum zone, this card's pendulum scale becomes 4. Then its monster effect, once per turn, cards in your pendulum zones cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects.
It's an inanimate fucking object.
You're an inanimate fucking object!
Alright, so my opinion on this pendulum summoning stuff, honestly, I think it's pretty stupid, and Konami made a mistake in making it. The only mistake they didn't make was they did not make these pendulum monsters an extra deck card. Thank God. Thing is, I think it's a mistake because A, the game does not need to be more complicated as it already is. It's extremely complicated. So for people like me who have been in the game for a while and know everything, this isn't too hard to soak in and understand because it's just the only new material out there. But for people that just start the game, it's going to make the game that much more complicated to understand and get into, and it's honestly not going to help the game because if the game is so complicated, people aren't going to want to start it, and it's not going to bring in new players. I think they think that it's going to bring in new players because it's like a new gimmick, but really all it is kind of attracting the attention of already existing players, and it's not going to necessarily bring in new ones. It's just going to go, oh, you know, what are they doing? They're just making new crap, running out of ideas. And I'm not trying to be the Yu-Gi-Oh! Equivalent of a Gen 1er here, but honestly, I just don't think that the game needs change because it's already good enough as is. The only things they can really do to improve the game at this point is to make things more, you know, to make archetypes more balanced just by coming out with new ban lists and, you know, new cards to support archetypes, which they've obviously been doing. So why they need to come out with a new form of summoning entirely is honestly beyond me. But anyway, I thought I'd share this clip from you. This is a clip straight from two Konami executives talking about Pendulum summoning after they decided to create it.
What did we learn, Palmer?
I don't know, sir.
I don't fucking know either. I guess we learned not to do it again.
Yes, sir.
I'm fucked if I know what we did.
Yes, sir. It's hard to say.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Mr. Huff, Mr. Jenner is ready for your interview.
Actually, we'll be interviewing as a team.
We're here to fuck shit up.
Dazzling, dilated, display a new sound. Live on stage.
Move it.
Dilated, display a new sound.
Check it out, you're now rocking with the best.
Dazzling, dilated, display a new sound.